To get at the 12 volt power, auxiliary power on the Norden 901, it is located right here at the top. I've got my phone mount here, and so I had to take off the phone mount apparatus to get at it. The cable is zip tied right on the top, right in the open here. And so I've just pulled it out the side of the turn signal right here. There are only 4 bolts to remove. You've got one here, one here, one there, and one right there. And the entire windshield assembly comes out. The other 2 bolts I had to pull off right here for your GPS mounts. And that gave me access to all this. The charger, I'm planning on putting right about here. I've got a 3/4 hole saw, and I will pop a hole in there, thread that in there, and that will give me a waterproof USB. It's pretty clearly labeled positive and negative. I'm going to go test my cabling, see which is positive and negative on the power supply, and then I'll make my electrical connections. I have the power turned on now. We're reading 12 volts DC on the connector. I've got my leads hooked up, and I'm reading positive voltage here. So the red's hooked up to the black red, that's our positive. Negative is hooked up to, I think that's a brown. So the brown's going to be our negative, and that black red there is going to be our positive. So I will hook that up appropriately to my USB socket. And so I'm trimming up the plastic boots on the connector so that it will slide on. So I'm just cutting it flush with the connector so it'll slide on there. So as you can see, it's got about a 1/2 inch of too much material. It's made for another male connector. So now I'm taking a 3/4 inch hole saw, and I'm going to put it right here by the cigarette lighter. So this is going to be my spot. You want to make sure when you're drilling this, and when it breaks through, you don't go hit any of the wiring on the inside, because you have a lot of wiring that's up in here. So I'm going to put my phone down, and I'm going to go protect that on the backside with a piece of cardboard or something. Then I'm going to punch this hole all the way through. And I've got the hole, and managed not to hit any of the wires on the inside, which is good. Might add, it's a 3/4 hole trade size. It's actually an 1 1/8 hole saw, and it fits this perfectly. So this, I mean, it's very, very snug. So when we got to put that lock nut on the back side, it's not going to have any place. I'm going to line this up. I've got a through bolt it here. So I'm going to mark that hole, drill it out, and then I'll get a bolt in on that, and we'll get back with it. All right, I've got my 1 1/8 hole drilled, 3/4 trade size. Popped a 1/4 inch hole for my other mounting hardware. I had to go purchase this. I just got a lock nut and a small bolt, big enough to fit that. It came with a screw, just to screw directly into the plastic, but I didn't really like that in this thin plastic, so I'm going with this setup. I've got my wires fished through. The factory wiring from Husqvarna fits right on here. So again, we've got the brown hooked up to the negative, and we've got the black red hooked up to the positive. So I've got my lock nut already on the wiring down here. So when I pop this in, I just got to tighten that lock nut onto our connector, and then I can bolt it all up, and we should be able to go from there. So we'll check it out. All right, I got the lock nut in, I got the bolt in, I've got enough clearance to close it. I tested it with the RAM charger, everything seems to be working perfect. So be a little bit easier if I brought it out. There is plenty of clearance in there, but it was kind of difficult to get my bolt on and the lock nut on there. But I wanted it kind of tucked in and hidden away, so it's worth the extra little patience to fight it in back there. But I think it's a nice clean installation in there. Nice weatherproof installation with the USB, and that allows me to keep my 12 volt, standard for whatever else I want to add in there. So I really like it. I'm going to get it put back together and do a final checkout. So here's everything put back together. I put a couple zip ties on it to clean up the wiring a little bit so it's not flying around everywhere. I'm pretty happy with it. So I've got a waterproof connection that I don't need to disconnect in the rain because there's no standard USB installed on the Norden. So now I've got 2 USBs that are waterproof, and I can run my wireless charger all day with it. I think it's a pretty slick setup. I'm happy with it. I'm not going to run a GPS or an Apple CarPlay, but You know, if I want to, it's easy to go back and change all that out. And you don't really even notice that it's all hidden up in here behind the windscreen. There's plenty of room on it. I'm really digging it so far. So any questions, leave some comments, and I'll try to get back with you. Have a good one.